Thank you all for joining us this evening. There is myself, Emma Rouge, BSL interpreter Jackie Beckford, and the wonderful Valerie Abua. Yeah, woo! It is so wonderful to see so many filled seats and also to see so many beautiful humans. We just took a minute to scan everyone before we started. One, because there's so much beauty and melanin in the room. So already that needed its moment, didn't it? Two, because we were like, let's look at everyone for a moment, which will settle us a little bit. Valerie and I are both quite used to talking, but talking on podcasts or in conversations where we are not in front of people. So this is a moment for both of us to break our virginity together in terms of having a full-blown audience in front of our faces. But thank goodness you're all so beautiful and radiant. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. And of course, we know that everyone is here to shake a leg to the DJ afterwards and for the food and the cocktails. But mostly everyone is here to celebrate the launch of Material Archive Value, which is created by this wonderful human sitting beside me. And I'm super honoured that actually I get to be in conversation with you today, Val, because we both go quite far back, 13 years back.
13 years.
Yeah, and it's amazing just to see how we've blossomed and where our journeys have gone, and there are some other people in the room today who also go that far back. And it's so beautiful for us all to be here together. So thank you for coming, welcome. And let's find out a little bit about the body of work value and also about the incredible human behind it. So get comfy and let's go.
Sorry, before you start, there's no doubt when it's on to sit down.
Thank you, Jackie. So Val, how did all of this begin?
Well, I think it began in 2018. I was really sick and tired of being in companies and not feeling like I could be myself or represent myself. And I really wanted to know why. Like, why is it that I could be in the companies that I wanted to be in and I didn't feel like I could be myself. And then also as well, like, joining these companies and like being a kind of, I don't know, well-established dancer, but then like not really having the financial like kind of gain that I thought would come with that. So what I was doing was I was dancing in companies, and then on the side I was life modelling because it made me quick cash, and it was really my secret life. Like I was really like Batman, you know. Like, I was really, like my Bruce Wayne was my dancing, and then like my Batman was me, like modelling. And when I was life modelling, at the end you kind of go around and you look at all the images, and I always noticed that people couldn't really draw me properly. They'd either get my skin tone wrong, or my nose would be super straight or super thin, or like the features just would never, well, it just wasn't me, basically. And when I would ask the artist in question, I'd be like, oh, like, what happened? They'd be like, oh, I didn't quite get you right, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, like, why do you think that is? And then they'd usually go bright red because they'd realise that actually they'd never drawn someone who looked like me, or had my hair texture, or all my features, and actually they were just drawing on autopilot, or some would argue maybe drawing themselves. So I realised that when I like, closed my eyes and I was thinking about, okay, like what's the most kind of famous kind of portrait or image And then all these white images came to my mind, so like the birth of Venus, the Mona Lisa, all these things. And then I started thinking about 15th century and the Italian Renaissance, and how actually those ideas are still kind of held now. This kind of idea of this silent muse who never gets to like really tell a story. They only get depicted, and the artist in question gets to kind of receive all the glory for this kind of image, and how those two things also, like, well, how this is it's prevalent in the kind of art world, but it's also the same in the dance world, where you have choreographers who, you know, maybe make movement onto you, or maybe you even create the movement, and then in the end, the choreographer is kind of known as the artists and the dancers are just bodies. So I wanted to do some research and make a work about it because I thought it was really important to kind of identify where historically this kind of happened, where did we essentially go wrong, because the only way you can kind of solve these things is if you actually know what you're trying to solve. So yeah, like again, like the Mona Lisa is the most expensive art piece ever to be made, and who really knows about this woman, you know, that's in the image, you know, about Da Vinci, you know, because he depicted her, but you don't know really who she is or what she's about. So I was wondering whether or not I could do a project where we're in conversation about that relationship between artists and muse. So that's where it began. But then, yeah, I was doing it again in my spare time because I was still dancing for companies, I was still life modelling, still trying to be financially secure. But yeah, it really began in 2018 because I was fed up. I was really fed up. I was like, why do I keep encountering this same thing? I was like, oh, actually, it's because people only see my body as XYZ because they've never been taught to actually look at me. They've never been taught to draw me. They've never been taught how to capture me. So yeah, that's where it began.
And why was it important to you for it to be exhibited here at Rendezvous Studios and as a material archive?
So yeah, firstly, it's really it's a tricky situation, isn't it? Because you know, institutions are inherently racist. You know, they're kind of built on white supremacist ideals. You know, so when you exhibit work as someone, as a black person, there's this constant dichotomy of like knowing how much to really give. Yeah. So actually, when I'm going to say finished, because I don't feel like the project's actually really finished. In fact, I know it's finished. There's more. I was really like, I don't know who deserves this, who I should give this to, you know, or who I should maybe work with on this. So I wasn't writing any kind of funding applications for it because I didn't feel like people deserved to have the work. Yeah. And for this archive in particular, well, first of all, the work is an archive of my body, or a black female body. And actually, a lot of the other archives that I've been involved with has been white people archiving my body. And actually, a lot of black bodies, just archived in general, aren't owned by the black people that are in them. Yeah. So I thought it was important to have a black female archive owned by a black female. And as far as the material aspect, I'm really someone who loves to work with what I have. I'm not rich. So I love using paper, I love, you know, finding bottle caps and making stuff. So yeah, for me, it was a great opportunity to actually stay true to who I am as an artist by like using all the things that I already use anyway. So I feel like the call out just spoke to me. And yeah, the call out spoke to me, but yeah, I'm like, no, that's not for me, no, I'll save it for this song. But yeah, I think it was, call out spoke to me.
And there was another kind of pre-iteration of this, which we'll get into a bit later. But before that happens, there's a moment for all of you now. So we're just going to do a little kind of dance phrase. So yeah, it's okay. It's going to be really easy. So everyone just stands up for a moment. Okay, you'll be pleased that I'm actually joking, so we can all sit down. I'm sorry, but not sorry. But I saw that all of you got already though. Yeah, I love you guys. I love that you're in. You're convicted. You're here. But really, this is your time now. You're amazing. It is your turn though now, but we're not going to dance. So when you came in, I'm sure you all saw that you had a gold envelope on your chair. So in a moment I'm going to ask you to open that envelope, take out what you find, use the pen provided, and follow the instructions. Valerie is also going to help by reading it out to you. And then after this conversation, we'd love you to head down to the parlour, which is when you came into the studios, it's the room imminently on your left, and we'd like you to make a post. So that sounds really cryptic, but once you open your envelopes, it will make sense. So you can now open your envelope, and then Valerie will give you the next set of instructions.
Okay, so I'm going to read out what it should say on the envelope and explain. So it should say, "Dear wonderful humans, in this envelope there are 4 post-it notes and a pen. On the first post-it note, please write, what can I do to value black women more? On the other 3 notes, write 3 different answers or different ways that you're going to action this. So for the first note, I would say it's about identifying something. So it could be, I am going to spend more time with my black friends. That's just an example, right? And then, so you might action that in one way immediately by saying, "Hey MK, what are you doing next week? Can we hang out? Is that cool? Yeah, great. We should hang out next week." And then you can also think about it in the ongoing process. So you can say, okay, every time, for instance, I have a show, I'm going to invite XYZ black women. Just as an example. If you are a black woman in this audience, please write down rest. Please. please write down that I'm going to value myself by resting, because we need to rest. But for those of you who are not black, please write down the way in which you're going to value us. So I'll read out the rest of it. To hold yourself accountable, post all 4 notes on your social media. Post a photo of all 4 notes on your social media. Tag at Valerie_Ibua and put the hashtag value, hashtag #blackout_everyday, and hashtag let's make shit happen. So a way you can caption this post if you get confused is, tonight I attended the value launch at the Siobhan Davis Studios. I thought about how I can value black women more, and I will. And now post, after you're finished, you go downstairs to the parlour and then post your note on the blackout. Does that make sense? Okay, so I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to do that. There should hopefully be a soundtrack in the background so you can like get you into the so yeah, absolutely. So just give me 5 minutes.
We good? Cool. So if you haven't finished, please do finish because it's super important. And after the talk, once you're allowed to move, please remember to go down to the parlour and get posted. So just before you guys had your shining moment, we were just talking about the kind of lockdown iteration of value, which Valerie housed on Instagram, on her Instagram. And some of you might have seen it, I saw it, and I remember we had a chat about it at the time. So for this iteration, which obviously is completely different, it's not a digital space, it lives in the whole space, which is so beautiful. Hopefully everyone's seen all the kind of surprise areas where you can encounter Valerie, and hopefully if not, afterwards please do look. But how did you decide and kind of work out how you were going to curate it in the space, and what loops and kind of pathways it was going to take? How did you take it from that iteration that was on your grid and figure out where it was going to live in this space?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So before I wrote the application, I actually came to the studio to have a look because I know people need to get funding, but I think it's really important when you're applying for something to actually see the space. So we did like a little recce, Henry and I, who's probably somewhere in this room, I can't see him, to figure out some stuff. But for me, I think there's 50, maybe more, like images. For me, it was quite obvious somehow in some respects, like the wall with all the cardboard. Like for me, like that was super obvious that it's a place for people to like write, or a place for people to protest, or a place for people to say how they're experiencing and feel. But it really came intuitively somehow. Just being, like, for instance, the illustrations on the windows, like just seeing all the colours in the buildings in the background, but also like knowing that there's a primary school near, next door, just thinking about how maybe younger people would engage with the work. I think it came really intuitively, and then of course Henry, who is my favourite collaborator, like also was just like, what about that there, or what about this? And so I'm really lucky that I have a team of people that I can like also bounce ideas off of, and and also like question like why, because if not, then I'm just like, oh yeah, I'll just put that there, you know. But I think like it was only like 2 weeks ago really that the kind of final-ish version emerged. Because suddenly I was like, I need more things here, and like these two weren't going to be here in this, they weren't going to be in it for this iteration. And then I was looking for the images, I was like, but no, actually they need to be here. But I like to think that it's quite intuitive, actually.
And how did people respond to the Instagram release or iteration of value? And how do you think that might be different to how people are going to respond to this iteration?
Yeah, sure. So the Instagram iteration was very interesting because basically I was supposed to show a part of this work at the V&A on May 2020, but of course we were locked down. And I was quite selfishly furious. I was like, what the fuck? Why is this happening now? Like, it's the first time I'm going to show my work in this, big venue, this big iconic venue, and I'm getting shut down. I immediately felt really, really shit. And then I was like, actually, no, I'm going to just release it anyway. I don't need the V&A to. I don't need that. Like, I can put it out also on my own terms. So I just released an image every day for I think 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And thank God people were really lovely. Actually, people were really nice. I was quite shocked actually because it was only really Ryan. You'd see most of the images, so most of it was like happening in my head, and it was nice for just to be able to like hear how people experience it, and especially at a time again where we were all locked down, where we were having like a constant like flow of like information. It was great for like people to look at it and to like. Yeah, to comment and to, like, loads of people like DM'd me as well and was saying like just the most incredible things about, because you've allowed us to see, I feel like I can see myself, all these kind of things.
Affirmations.
Yeah.
Really back to you, reaffirmations.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think it went pretty well. I mean, people tried to take on the work after that and offered me things. In which I had to say no, because it wasn't ready yet also, and I was angry and all these kind of things. But I'm really, really thankful that happened, looking back, because I definitely wasn't ready then. I think I'm the kind of person anyway that will just go for it. Like even if I don't think something's done, or even if I don't think I'm quite ready, I'll just put myself out there, because if I don't, no one's gonna just give me stuff,
I love that.
But so yeah, of course I, went for that opportunity, and I was pissed that happened. But I really think it was such a blessing, because what it is now is what it needed to be.
Absolutely.
And I'm happy that actually I get to like properly share it with actual people and not just be in my bedroom like making a post and then running to I would literally make a post and I'd leave my phone on the bed and then I'd run to my balcony and sit for like an hour because I was so fucking scared about like what people would say. And I had to warn my brother as well before I like put it up as well, so I was like, please, this is gonna happen. And he was like, okay, well, I don't want to see a naked body.
Naked meaning.
So yeah, it was really, really scary, but also again it prepared me for like this version. I feel like this version feels like I feel very comfortable in it because I had that past experience of releasing it.
Some people may have heard Valerie on many, many podcasts. Ella and I, but we love you, so we're here for it. Ella and I, who's a co-host for Power Up Podcast, which is our podcast, we were really fortunate to have Valerie on as a guest May last year, as part of a series that we put out on undoing and resistance. And we had a really frank conversation during that podcast, and I loved it. And you spoke a lot about unlearning the internalising of other people's opinions about you. And I'm sure this is something that a lot of us are working through and have to kind of come up against and navigate our way through, particularly some more than others. And you said, and I quote, "Resistance is a part of my identity, period." And it's very obvious to me, and I'm sure to a lot of people in the space, that Value is very much a project, it's a movement, it's an act of resistance and activism for Black females. What I want to know beyond that is how much of this project is personally for you, for Valerie, that we don't get to see, maybe in less obvious ways. How much of that project is for what we don't see?
That's a really good question. I think it's a lot more for me than I even kind of realised, which is very strange. I mean, I don't think you can, like, so for people that don't know, like, it's called Value because my name is Valerie Utachukwu Ibua. So if you take the vowel from Valerie, the U from Utachukwu, and the E from Ibua, it spells value. So I don't think you can name a project after yourself and then be naked on top of that for most of it. And it not be for me. Like, I think I have to, in order to really find out about myself and know myself, I have to, like, how can I put this? Not like push myself to the limits, but yeah, just to go for it, to
maybe move past what's comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Familiar,
absolutely, because for instance, when I released this again during the first lockdown, I'd taken all these pictures, people had drawn me, blah, 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 so I really felt like I was really comfortable in my own skin somehow. And then the moment I posted the first one, I had to like throw my phone onto my bed, and then I ran to my balcony, and I literally like sat there like for an hour being like, I cannot look because, my God, what are people going to say? You know, and for me, I was like, oh yeah, so actually maybe there's actually still a lot of work to do. Like, actually, like, there are some things that I'm still so insecure about. Actually, I'm not just this person that, like, yeah, like, come at me, whatever, like, you know. There's still lots of work to be done, and I think actually it's for me because for me it's, I'm like, okay, this is me, like, doing the work because I'm forcing myself to look at myself.
Yeah.
And I'm forcing other people to look at me too, you know. And yeah, so I feel like it is for me, and also again in this context, like it being like a material archive. I remember when I was 8 years old, I used to run into the garden and I would just pick up anything, and you know, I'd stick some leaves together or whatever, and I'd be like, Mum, I've made a fishing rod, or like I would just say that I've made all these random things, you know. And I feel like for this, because I've been able to like play, and like, you know, like glue bottle caps and do all this kind of stuff. Like, my 8-year-old self is so happy. Like, she's really like, you bossed it, like, you made it. Like, yeah, like, you were laughing before when you were making that fishing rod, but look at you now. Like, you know.
That's important.
Yeah.
That's a huge part of being able to continue to make the work that needs to be made and to speak about what needs to be spoken about and to really embody your creativity. And we were talking earlier, actually, weren't we, before everyone came in, about the fact that we are multidimensional and you are multidimensional, and often Black females and Black people are often assumed to be quite monolithic, and it's really important to be able to show, no, actually, we're not all the same, and I can encompass all of this and all of this and all of that. And part of that is also tapping into the 8-year-old Valerie and allowing her to just be like, and do what she needs to do, right? And blossom, and because now we get this, we all get to enjoy this and learn and converse and grow and unlearn, so we can learn and rebuild and empower, right? Ooh. How does this body of work tie into your choreographic and performance work?
So for me, it's is that me?
I don't know.
I think that's, is that me? No, I think it's you.
Is that me? Uh-oh.
For me, I think it's all the same, if I'm really honest. Like, I trained as a dancer, but for instance, I really love to write, and when I write, I don't think of it as like a different thing. I feel like I'm just, it's going to sound really cheesy, but I feel like I'm just choreographing words. Like, it's just, it's me using my dance lens, actually, to produce a like, non-dance thing, if that makes sense. So for me, it's all the same. Like when I was making earrings for this, I was like, oh yeah, actually, like, 'cause it's the first time I've made like a batch of earrings. Usually I just make something for myself and then like whatever. But this time I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to make a batch of earrings. And actually halfway through I was like, oh yeah, actually if I do it like this, actually it's quicker. Oh okay, actually, you know, like, and for me again, it's just choreography. It's the same, it's all the same. It's just about the lens in which you look at it, or the way in which you frame it in your head. So I don't see these things as different, for me anyway. And actually sometimes, again, like when I'm writing, I'll then think about, it will also inform how I move. Like a lot of the time, like I have to do other stuff to then get the ideas to put it back into the studio and to put it back into the body somehow. So yeah, it's always the same for me.
And I know that there is a lot more work around value. Are you able to tell us a little bit more about the value framework to kind of close?
I'll try and be really quick. The value. So the value framework is like a creative framework to navigate systems. I've made it based on, of course, my experience. But basically it's a toolkit or a framework to help black dancers in particular to be able to navigate a dance world or a art sector. Because there's loads about the sector that we, I guess, don't know, or sometimes you encounter certain things and it can feel really lonely and you don't know what to do, you know. So if you're in a situation where you feel like you're being exploited and you're the only black person in the room, that's like super lonely, right? And then you try and maybe reach out to some of your other friends and they don't know either because they're also that black person that's lonely in the room. So I've been working on this framework with a list of like signposting people to like pro bono, like lawyers for instance, to talk through grievance processes, like reading like texts, because you know again a lot of like anti-racist texts are like super, you know, it's like Reading a Du Lodge, it's, you know, it's Audre Lorde, it's all these things, but actually real anti-racism is also about experiencing our joy and like, you know, reading black literature, you know, going and seeing black films, you know, like all these kind of things. It's not just about the other stuff. So yeah, I've put together this framework in order to help people navigate any or the world really, hopefully. Specifically like dance, but I think it can be applied to almost any industry. And yeah, it's called the value framework because it's about valuing yourself and knowing that you are, you know, of value. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in the room, or you. I mean, let me rephrase that: you wouldn't be alive. You know. So yeah.
And last but not least, where can people, when it's like that, where can people access it? Where can we, like, do we know where it's going to live? Valerie doesn't know that I'm going to ask this. This is a bit of a selfish question. Do you know?
You're gonna have to follow and find out.
Yeah. If you're not already following Valerie, you're gonna have to follow her and find out. And well, you'll be able to, if you're not following her, why are you not following her?
Absolutely.
Why are you here and not following her? We're just about wrapping up. If you haven't had an opportunity to dive into all the nooks and crannies in this beautiful space, please do so. Discover all the iterations of Valerie that are living and breathing in the space. Not all of them in their entirety, but all of the ones that she shared here. And please do come and bring other people to see it. It is here until February 2023. Pat, 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 pat. So please come and uncover more. Bring all the people you know. Take something new away each time. And I just want to say a massive thank you to Val, because I know what this is for you, and I know part of your journey in getting here, and this is only the beginning, as Gem and the Holograms say. Show my age, if you know about Gem and the Holograms, you know. Come on.
Love.
Lucky I didn't sing for you. But yeah, thank you so much, and well done. It's beautiful.
Just wanted to extend the thanks to Amma, wow, thank you so much, and to Jackie, and of course Valerie. I just want to say this is the second of a whole series of artist archives, but the first material archive, and we just can't wait. It just feels like we're at the beginning of really living with you for the next 5 months. So yeah, just want to say a huge thank you, and thanks for thinking that we were worth applying to. So thank you so much.